Hello and welcome, I'm Pia and you're watching Gulf Today on NewsX World, and here are the headlines. Israel has received the bodies of 2 deceased hostages as part of its truce deal with Hamas. The identities of the hostages have been confirmed as Amiram Cooper and Shahar Baruch. Hamas ultra-Orthodox Jewish rally against military conscription in Jerusalem turned tragic when a 20-year-old man fell to his death from a high-rise building. This has added fuel to an already explosive debate over a new conscription bill. U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright has cancelled his planned visit to Israel next week. This follows Israeli counterpart Eli Cohen's refusal to approve the $35 billion gas export agreement with Egypt. A municipal government employee in Lebanon's Blida has been killed in a raid by Israeli soldiers. The IDF maintains that its soldiers entered the building to destroy Hezbollah's terrorist infrastructure and that the incident is under probe. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has denounced US's nuclear testing announcement. He has stated that it is a regressive and irresponsible move that poses a serious threat to international peace and security. Despite growing pressure from U.S. lawmakers for Mohammed Ibrahim's release, the 16-year-old Palestinian American will remain in detention for at least another week and a half in Israel. He's been held in an Israeli prison without trial for more than 8 months now. According to reports, the planned Trump-Putin summit in Budapest has been cancelled after Moscow sent a memo to Washington. Reports indicate that the decision followed a tense call between the two countries' top diplomats who did not see eye to eye on Russia's hardline demands. Pakistan and Afghanistan are set to return to the negotiating table on the 6th of November in Istanbul. Despite talks breaking down earlier, both countries have now decided to extend the fragile ceasefire along the 2,600-kilometer border till the next meeting. Well, viewers, those are the headlines and our top focus. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun has ordered the Lebanese army to confront any future Israeli incursions into Lebanon's airspace. The statement has come after a Lebanese municipal worker was killed in an Israeli strike. Now, local media has identified the slain worker as Ibrahim Salameh, an employee of the Blida municipality. The Israeli military confirmed that the raid had taken place in order to target Hezbollah's terror infrastructure. And the death of this worker had taken place and the incident is under review. This has sparked widespread anger across Lebanon. The Lebanese president, who had earlier called for a conclusive agreement with Israel after the Gaza peace deal, is now seeking a response at the front lines. Earlier, there had been an understanding between Israel and Lebanon in late 2024 regarding Israeli troop withdrawal and the disarmament of Hezbollah. The Lebanese government had planned to disarm Hezbollah by the end of 2025. However, Hezbollah has refused to give up its arms. The Israeli strikes have now kept tensions alive at the front lines. With us on the broadcast is Mr. Peter Baum, foreign editor of Weekly Blitz, joining us from London. Thank you so much for taking out time and speaking to us on NewsX World. Yet another tragedy. This time, a municipal worker has lost their lives in the fresh raid that Israel claims was to target Hezbollah's terror infrastructure. As I've mentioned, this fragile peace along the Israel-Lebanon border has been in hold since November 2024 when the ceasefire was put in place. But despite that, we're seeing that the ceasefire terms have not been met. Israel has not completely withdrawn. Hezbollah has not given up its arms either. What do you think should both countries now take recourse to?
Yes, good morning, and thank you again for having me on your esteemed programme. There's a lot of stories that can all combine onto this one particular issue, which is the unfortunate death of this Lebanese municipal worker. Now, normally, when such an event happens, I can assure you the anti-Israeli media, especially the BBC, would be all over this story. And I've looked and looked and looked again before coming onto your programme, and there is not one reference yet to this story, whereas Al Jazeera in the Arab press is virtually having its headlines on. And why? It's a tragic accident that has happened, but in no way will it stop the influence of the United States and their Tom Barak, their diplomat to Lebanon. It will not stop the Syrian Syrian government being influenced, and it won't stop the Israeli government being influenced. And all those influencers want one thing and one thing alone, and that is the disarmament of Hezbollah, who, as we all know, are trying to reorganize, to recalibrate, and to re-weaponize. Now, Joseph Aoun, the president of Lebanon, had absolutely no choice but to come out with a statement such as he did, because he is responsible for all Lebanese, whether they be Shia, whether they be Sunni, whether they be Christian, whether they be Druze. And it's absolutely obvious when a Lebanese civilian gets killed by another player, such as Israel, he has to come up and make a statement, and a strong statement, as he has done. That's his skill as an astute diplomat and politician. However, the Lebanese army have been trying their utmost to disarm Lebanon, blowing up their weapons depots and tunnels, etc., so much so that they've run out of ammunition, explosives to do this, and have got to import more in order to achieve their objective. So in the long run, while this is an important issue for the Lebanese people, the death of this unfortunate civil worker, while this is an important issue for Lebanon domestically, in no way will it affect the bigger picture, and that is to try and disarm Hezbollah so that Hezbollah simply remains as a political force and not a military force. And Mr. Aoun's statement was expected, it was proper, it was right, but in the long run, I don't see it harming Lebanese-Israel relations, despite the fact that Mr. Aoun has said that Lebanon will confront the Israeli military. They won't. They don't have the will or the firepower to, and actually it's in their interests not to. What is in their interest is to see a weakened Hezbollah.
Indeed, sir. I request you to stay on with us as we're tracking some more updates at this time from Gaza. Now, residents in Gaza have expressed their desperation and anger at Israel's violation of the ceasefire in the Strip as its forces recently bombarded residential buildings in the enclave. Now, earlier this week, Israel launched renewed strikes against multiple locations in the Gaza Strip, stating that Hamas had violated the ceasefire agreement and had shot one of its soldiers who ended up dying in combat. Remember, earlier on the 19th of October, the Israeli military had attacked the Rafah area in southern Gaza under this same pretext. Now, facing repeated assaults, Gazans have felt exhausted. Listen in to what they've had to say.
احنا تعبنا خلص. طب ايش ذنبهم الاطفال اللي راحوا؟ ايش ذنبهم؟
ليش بعد؟
من اللي صار ما حدش كان متخيله.
بنتفاجأ بضربة في الليل والكل نايم يعني يعني الكل مصدوم من اللي حصل، مش عارفين ايش اللي صار، مش عارف ايش بدي اتكلم، لحتى الآن احنا مصدومين يعني من اللي صار، مش عارفين ايش اللي جرى، ايش السبب ليش ضربوا البيت، ما نعرفش.
إسرائيلي يخترق وقف إطلاق النار في غزة، وهذه ليست المرة الأولى. أكثر من مرة الاحتلال الإسرائيلي يستهدف المدنيين في القطاع، سواء في المناطق التي يعني تعتبر غرب الخط الأصفر أو من خلال عمليات القصف والإغارة من قبل الطائرات الحربية على المواطنين. وهذا حقيقة مخالف للمبادئ الإنسانية وللقانون الدولي الإنساني واتفاقية.
Still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Peter Baum. We've of course seen these strikes take place in Gaza. The IDF maintains that one of its soldiers, its personnel, was killed by Hamas after Hamas had violated the ceasefire. We've also seen similar such strikes taking place in the West Bank recently. There are of course concerns of these terror networks being revived there as well after this sort of fragile truce that we're witnessing. In spite of that, we've seen the United States, in particular, Donald Trump, come out and openly back Israel, stating that if Hamas should violate the ceasefire any further, then Israel should take military action on the ground. How do you read into the US's response into what's taken place?
Yeah, again, a very interesting question. It's not only the Gazans who are frustrated and exhausted by the 2-year war. Believe me, it's the Israeli public as well. And if you had played clips from Israeli residents, they would have come out with the same emotional pleas as you did with the Gazan residents. Now, going back to the breach of the ceasefire, I thought that was very interesting politically, and I'll tell you for why. For the first time, we saw a seemingly good faith actor, Qatar, come out and expressly state that it was a Palestinian, they didn't name Hamas, but a Palestinian player that had breached the ceasefire. Hamas saw an opportunity to reimpose its credibility as a military force and a force to all those anti-Israel elements globally by starting up again, let's say. What Hamas did not expect was the ferocity of the Israeli response, which I may say, according to Israeli sources, has managed to eliminate up to 20 high-profile Hamas operatives, and we're talking about Hamas field commanders here. Hamas did not expect the ferocity of the Israeli attack, nor did they expect the Qatari Prime Minister, I should say, to accuse a Palestinian party of breaching the ceasefire. They may have expected Trump to support Israel, but not as fiercely as he did support Israel in this. So on that particular incident, which unfortunately ended in the death of not only Gazans and an Israeli soldier, Hamas actually played that card wrongly because of the response. Now, will that impact on the 21-point plan going forward and indeed implementing phase 2? I don't think so. Hamas need, in order to achieve their objectives of blowing apart, excuse the pun, blowing apart the Trump plan, a much bigger operation, a much more forceful operation, a much more, in their terms, successful operation to achieve their objective of retaining military power. All players in the sector want Hamas to be completely demilitarized, and as long as they stick to that objective, and as long as Hamas continues to fail to achieve her objective by another big terrorist incident, let's say, then I think the ceasefire will hold. At the same time, we do know that the Israeli troops are still operating in the area, trying to clear mines, etc. We've seen Egyptian and I think perhaps even Turkish infrastructure teams going in, trying to clear the rubble. So as long as Hamas can be controlled, which at the moment Israel seems to be doing, then I think phase 1 of the ceasefire will hold up, and there's every hope going forward that phase 2 could be implemented.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Mr. Peter Baum, for taking out time and sharing your perspective with us on NewsX World. With that, viewers, we're shifting focus to some news coming in, this time from Jerusalem. A mass ultra-Orthodox Jewish rally against military conscription in Jerusalem turned deadly when a 20-year-old man fell to his death during the protests. The rally, which shut down the main entrance to the city, saw an estimated 200,000 participants, mostly men. The deceased man, who Israeli military outlets have identified as 20-year-old Menachem Mendel Litzman, fell from the 20th floor of an under-construction building. Medics declared him dead at the scene. The police are reportedly probing whether the death was a suicide. According to Israeli media, Litzman had left a farewell message on his Instagram account as well. He had stated that to all my dear and true friends, I love you. I ask for forgiveness. I can no longer cope. I say goodbye to you with tears in my eyes, and we will meet together with the Messiah. Now, Litzman was one of the dozens of demonstrators who ascended the high-rise during the protests, which drew hundreds of thousands of rally-goers to the entrance of Jerusalem. Hundreds of others scaled billboards, climbed on the roof of a gas station, and were even seen on top of a construction crane during the mass rally. After Litzman's death, the MC of the rally urged young men who ascended the building to come down. The demonstration was also marred by an injury to a police officer. During the course of the demonstration, a bus carrying protesters ran over a police officer at the Moza interchange on Route 1, causing him moderate injuries. The Magen David Adom and the Ichud Hazala Emergency Services have reported that they treated over 140 people between them for a variety of ailments, including fainting, difficulty breathing, and other minor injuries. Now, the issue of mandatory military service and exemptions has long caused division in Israeli society, putting increasing political pressure on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Ultra-Orthodox seminary students have long been exempt from mandatory military service. Many Israelis fume at what they see as an unfair burden carried by the mainstream who do serve. That frustration has intensified during wars over the past 2 years that have exacted the highest Israeli military death toll in decades, as fighting stretched from the Gaza Strip to Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, and even Iran. This has all added fuel to an already explosive debate over a new conscription bill that lies at the center of a crisis rattling Netanyahu's coalition, which took power, remember, in late 2022 for a 4-year term. Last year, the Israeli Supreme Court had ordered an end to the exemption. The Knesset has been struggling to draft a new conscription bill, which has so far failed to meet both the ultra-Orthodox demands and those of a stretched military. In fact, the Likud party and their long-term political allies, ultra-Orthodox Jewish party Shas and United Torah Judaism, had quit Netanyahu's coalition government in July in a dispute over the new military draft legislation. The door, of course, has been left open for the ultra-Orthodox parties to rejoin the coalition should the dispute be resolved. Meanwhile, ultra-Orthodox Jewish leaders say that full-time devotion to the study of holy scriptures is sacrosanct, and they fear that their young men will drift away from religious life if they are drafted into the military. More developments coming in from the Middle East. We're now learning that U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright has cancelled his planned visit to Israel next week due to his Israeli counterpart Eli Cohen's refusal to approve the gas export agreement with Egypt until Israel's interests are secured and a fair price for the Israeli market is agreed upon. Now, according to the reports, the U.S. administration has been pressurizing Israeli officials, including Eli Cohen and Benjamin Netanyahu, to approve the $35 billion gas export deal with Egypt. Cohen has demanded that prices for the Israeli market remain attractive. As negotiations have not yet been completed, Cohen refused to approve the export until the issue is resolved. Now, at the same time, efforts were made to resolve diplomatic issues between Israel and Egypt as well. With us on the broadcast is Mr. Yossi Cooper-Wasser, Israeli intelligence and security expert, joining us from Tel Aviv. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. At the outset, I wanted to understand from you, the prices being fair is a primary concern that Israel has. What are the other interests that Israel is looking at securing as far as this $35 billion deal is concerned?
Well, thank you for having me. First of all, we have to realize that relations between Israel and Egypt are beyond just the gas deal. The gas deal is very important. It's a huge deal, and it's going to be long-lasting. It's going to stay effective until 2040. But at the same time, we have a lot of issues between us and the Egyptians. And first of all, Gaza. The Egyptians are involved in mediating the deal and making sure that Hamas doesn't breach it, as was discussed before. And we want to make sure that they serve as promoters of the deal and not allowing Hamas to get away with all kinds of breaches of the deal that they're carrying out all the time. So this is first and foremost important between us and the Egyptians. Secondly, there's a growing deployment of Egyptian forces in the Sinai Peninsula close to our borders against the breach of the peace agreement. In most cases, we approved those deployments after they were already carried out. But during the war, they brought more and more troops into the Sinai Peninsula, and this is something that Israel is upset about, and we want to see it coming to an end. We don't see any justification for that. Third, there's a lot of smuggling going on along the border, including recently with drones that are crossing the wall that we have built along the border to prevent the crossing of munition and drugs and smuggling of people, of workers. So the Egyptians don't do enough in order to prevent this smuggling, and this enormous amount of weapons are pouring from Egypt into Israel for criminal gangs and for terror activities. So this is another issue that stands between us and the Egyptians. And as regard to the gas deal, this is a commercial issue that has to be worked out between the parties involved. And we insist that the prices that would be agreed upon will be attractive for the party that is working on behalf of Israel.
Yes.
And some of these companies are American companies, so the US knows where to point their questions about whether this deal is going to be approved or not.
Indeed, and how do you read into the U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright cancelling his visit? How do you think this would go down with the Israeli administration?
Well, I think the Secretary was hoping that he would be able to witness and participate in the signature of the deal. And since it's not ready yet, he postponed it. Simultaneously, there's press reports that this is going on with, together with pressure on Israel to be more flexible when it comes to the prices. This is not going to happen in my mind, because Israel is looking for reasonable prices that are going to be justifying the deal. We are definitely in need to strengthen Egypt and to make sure they have the gas they need. But the prices that can be reduced a little bit cannot be really brought to a place that is unattractive for the company that produces the gas.
Indeed. And also considering Israel's priorities at this point, how further do you think this deal can be stretched and stalled and delayed? And what sort of trade-off in the future could Israel have to make, or would Israel even make that, considering its own national priorities?
Well, I believe that eventually we shall find the price. It's commercial negotiations. Every side puts whatever it can in order to get better prices. So eventually, since this is very important strategically, I think that we shall find the appropriate price that everybody is going to be satisfied, and there's going to be a deal. And at the same time, we shall explain to the Americans that in order to show more flexibility on the question of the gas prices, there's got to be a goodwill on the side of the Egyptians as well, and other issues that pertain to our national security. All those issues that I mentioned before are national security matters, and the Egyptians should show flexibility on those, to encourage us to show flexibility on the gas prices.
All right, so with that, I would like to thank you for taking out time of sharing your analysis with us on NewsX World. With that, viewers, it's a wrap on Gulf Today. We will continue to track these developments very, very closely. Stay tuned for more such updates as we dip into a quick short break.